Okay, I am 2 minutes early today. What? Hold on. What? You can't see my hands and my hips because the camera's zoomed in on this guy. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Okay, so hi. I've got some stuff I'm working on today, and in the course of doing so, I thought I would show and talk about the thing we started doing yesterday, because I don't do it very often. And I gotta get a drink. I'm sorry, I got a frog in my throat. So I did a collage. There it is on screen. I think it was Liz. I think it was Liz B. That had suggested that maybe I should do a collage, a magazine collage. So this is what we came up with. Now, some of the things we talked about during the stream yesterday, we engaged in. So I'll pull up the original. First, I'll get my head out of the way so you can see what the thing looks like at the end. So there's the full page. Hiya, Linda. Welcome aboard. Hiya, Tim. So there's the full page from yesterday. And with the scary, scary tablet device. And yeah, tablets, I realize, are relatively unrecognizably no different than phones. They're just, it's a size issue, right? So anyhow, so there's the page. Now, there's the overhead. So I've also done something different too in the studio here, is that I've got another camera that I've set up 2.5 feet higher than this one. Well, 3 feet higher than this one. And so that when I'm working on, so I can do, I've been doing a whole bunch of printmaking stuff and jelly plating stuff. And I'm like, well, how do I talk about that and work through that process with people? I can't do that right here because it's too close. So I put a camera setting higher up. And because this is untethered, this camera, that one, and because it's an old cell phone that's remote broadcasting to, my OBS program, I can hang it even higher and have it even more distant from where I am. So, thumbs up. Today's page. So this is the original little piece that we used. I extended the outfit. I've cleaned up her outfit. I realized after the fact that I forgot to replicate the necklace and the other two images of her. Who cares? So this is the original one. This is the little girl. And what I said I would do is just do another iteration over here and another iteration over there and just upscale it for the size of panel image that I wanted. So we did. Turn up your volume a bit, please. Sorry, Linda. Is this better? Let me know if this is better, because it's all about where the mic is placed. And that's confusing. Potatoes. 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 Can you hear that better? Hopefully. Okay, so anyhow, here is, that turned out very well. I hope, yeah, I mean the volume. Okay, the page. Thank you. It's very nice of you, Linda. So I'm not sure if it was you, Linda, or if it was Liz that suggested that I do the collage. Well, whoever it was, I did it. So, I don't do it very often, but I have a little bag with a bunch of random things in it, so I just went in the bag, and there we go. The last, and they're from the same magazine today, so I've only done 3 collages. One was a digital, and it featured Chuck Norris' Fashion Action Show, which is located in Volume 1 of One Page Story Extravaganza. Ah. So I thought I'd pull it up, and because I think I included it in here. Yeah, there it is. The Chuck Norris Fashion Action Show. So this page is silly business, but I did it digitally, and it was fun. And then the second one I did was of Queen Elizabeth at the poker club, and I think it was probably close to a solid year later before I did that one. So, but it's in a portrait format, so it's not in volume 2 of One Page Story Extravaganza. You like that? Shameless self-promotion. So yeah. So that's those are the only other 2 times that I've done a collage, and so this is why it's funny that the last one involved Queen Elizabeth, and this one involves Kate, Princess Kate, I think, and Prince William, future king, future queen. So, yeah, you know, that's just because it's the same magazine. It's like a British royalty magazine that, Lori was done with, and I went, all right, I'll try this one. So that's why. Anyhow, elements of this are like this little face of her and this little face of her are just illustrated, whereas this, and this are magazine. So trying to make it look like there's some uniformity to it. And then this is this background and this background are the only, or in this I think in here too behind it, are the only original backgrounds, and then these are their own thing as well, which is similar, but then the right colors. So there's it. So there's the original image, and there is the finished one. So, bit of silly fun. Thank you, Susanna, for the suggestion, and thank you for the suggestion of doing this as a magazine. So, in the piles back there, I realized that when I shuffle off from this mortal coil, whenever that is, not scheduled, whenever that day happens, somebody is going to have to deal with serious amounts of paper, serious amounts of nonsensical things that I have created over the last so many years of my life. And I apologize for that a little bit. And, but there you go. So here is 11 by 17 surface. But what I thought I might do is let whoever is engaged in our stream today pick out what I'm going to work on. So this is a couple of pages that have been done since the last excursion into doing some jelly plating and printing on different surfaces. And so I've done a couple of these pages since. And I've got a whole stackaroni of more. Now, I have no particular investiture in any of this stuff. It's a ton of stuff that I have to work from. And in addition to all of these modified surfaces that we have here, which is that thick, about 80, 90 pages at this point of different things that I can work on, which is a luxury to have that many options. And, I've set myself up for a little while, but that doesn't mean I might not go back in and rework some of it. In addition to that, this is one of the Stonehenge things I was talking about yesterday. I've got these tie-dye looking surfaces that are an actual printed thing. They're not very good toothy surfaces, but there you go. And then I have all of these various surfaces to work on top of. So if there's any specific thing that pops up that someone says, that one, let me know. And we will do today's page on here. Now, how much of this is going to be visible after the fact, I'm not sure. Hi, Liz. Did you see today's page? But these are all the different surfaces that we could work from. So if there's something that stands out that you're like, that's the one, get on it. I will put it on the floor and stand on it. Nope. I will work on that page. So there we go. Lots of different things to choose from. Well, did you do all those backgrounds? The girl looks great. Oh, thanks. Thanks for the suggestion yesterday. So this is surfaces to work on for today's page. So if anybody wants to say the one they like, let me know, because that'll be the one we'll work on. My stack is sliding off the desk as I go through it. Complicated, you know? I kind of don't want to work white on a dark surface unless somebody wants me to do that specifically. If anybody has any material they want me to work with specifically today, let me know, because I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning. Somebody should write a song about that. All right. Yeah, if there was something there that people saw, squawk it out in the chat, and away we go. I'm going to try to figure out what we're going to do. Now, Irene Kavanaugh sent in a suggestion today, and that is a time-traveling cat who accidentally ends up in space. So I put that into the book, and we will put that. We will be doing that very soon. I don't know if we're going to do it today, but I mean, we could. But she also had brought up that, you know, I haven't really publicized too much that I've done this. I have done 2 of these now. And in addition to these 2, I have done the alphabet book, which is a third book that has grand similarities to these 2 here. So now I'm at the point where I've got 3 of these hardcover volumes. The alphabet book is standalone things, and these are collections of the one-page stories from people's suggestions in different mediums. So you know, it's lots of fun in the sun, folks. But anyways, it dawned on me today that, you know, I haven't been very public about all that. Okay. I forget those things. I'm good at making things. I'm not good at what to do next. What comes after that? So, let's see what else. Oh, I want to talk about sketchbooks again. I'm back to working in some of these older sketchbooks where it's just random putting together of images and using different materials like markers and having fun with this larger scale again for a sketchbook. And then simultaneously, in addition to this nonsense, in this large book, I have been working in, and this is again from a question that somebody sent me yesterday, I have been working in this little tiny, tiny baby of a sketchbook and doing different little bits of business in here and having a ball. I kind of really had a real little bit of fun doing these 2 Jeeps driving in the rocks. I don't know why. But just trying out different stuff as I go along, and gets it, and some trees. But this is handy to have in your pocket to carry around with you. Okay, so I'm just going to pick a random page at this point. Something light, a lighter value. Oh, we got a slap and drag. Let's use this slap and dragon. There's a slap and dragon. And in addition to that, I have got somewhere. Is this him? This is him. It's a purple pen. Yeah, let's see if he works for us. All this excitement over a pen that might not yet work. I'm just going to try to get some life going in this guy. Maybe he's out of ink. Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. Hey, Salty, how you doing? How's things, man? Is there any juice in that? Yeah, there's some juice in there. I don't know what his problem is. What's this guy's problem? Okay, so we've got this slap and drag surface. So what this is a, yeah, I got another purple pen I'll use instead. This is half of, I've got two of these sheets, and all they are is a page that I have cut in half. And it's a comic page, a lined comic template, like so. So, I mean, they could still be attached together and we could draw on it like that, but let's just work this magic for now. Okay. Purple pens, purple pens. I'm using some purple pens. Purple is the color like no other today, folks. So these are just regular old different kinds of ballpoints that we're using. Oh, there you go. I hope you're feeling better. Hi, Salty Snacks. My name, I enjoy pretzels. Nice. Okay, so I've got over here on the side, you can see, a bunch of these little tiny thumbnail images. And the reason I had those thumbnail images is working towards a commission. I wanted to grab some reference that was related to what that commission was. And so I printed off some different thumbnails. And you can see how there are parts of this page that are cut away because those are the ones that applied to the commission. This is just random extra stuff. So we can use some of these elements for whatever we're doing today. Why not, right? And it's not so much about the reference. It's not so much about replicating. It disappeared. It made a break for it and ran. It's not so much about replicating those elements as it is about how we can utilize those in our own narrative. Let's see, what have we got? Oh, I think I've done that. Here's an 8-ball. Well, I mean, we could do something with a time-traveling cat that ends up in space. I mean, that's the suggestion that just came in from Irene K. So, I mean, I got no problem with doing that today. If you crazy kids think it's cool. Now, in order to keep this up where we want it to be, I have what we call in the old country clips. And so I'm going to utilize these today. Now, yeah, look at that magic. Look at that magic at work. Have I charted my markers, pens, and color pencils? Have I charted them, or is that a typo? Is it changed? Have I charted my markers, pens, or colored pencils? How do you mean? Let me know. So yeah, I'm just going to grab a little sampling of whatnot from here. Let's try something fun. Let's try to figure out how to do this. Back in 2. An inner link. Oh, book 2. Oh, thank you so much, Linda. That's very sweet. Yes, Corbin. Hi. Oh, Corbin's come to join us. I'll make you a space. I'm sorry. Covered up your spot. It's so emotional. All right. A time-traveling cat who accidentally ends up in space. One up? Okay, take your time. So, list all the colors I have in which type. No, I have not. That's an interesting idea. I have tried that a couple of times. I have started to do that a couple of times. And I quickly stopped doing it and start drawing with whatever it is that I'm in the process of tabulating the colors of. I'm very changeable. So yeah, no, I have not done that, and it's a lot to do with the fact that as soon as I start fiddling around with the mark making tools, I start using the mark making tools. So here's the 3 different colored pens that I've brought over. Oh, that's a light, bright one. And there's our dark purple. So let's utilize this, okay? And I'll just, I'm tired of managing this little thing, pile of pictures. So we'll just get rid of this stuff, get it out of our way, and let's utilize this. So there's this image that has been sorted, and what it is, if you look at it close, is a blurry crowd scene. So we're going to try to figure out how to draw that. And I pulled this off the clip. And the reason that I'm doing these random purple colors that I'm doing is because of the fact that this is a slap and drag piece of paper. So what that is that you put some ink on a sheet of plastic and you spritz some water on it to destabilize it a little bit, you know, spread it around, flip it over onto a piece of paper and drag it across. You slap it down, you drag it across. And, oh, thank you, Linda. Linda put up the link for book 1. Nice, thank you. So, yeah, your spot's right here. You want to say hi? Come say hi.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? It's me, Corbin. I like potatoes.
It's a random thing to say, Corbin. So we're going to start with this intermediate value, and we'll start trying to draw these people in a crowd this way. And this will be our first panel about how time rushes by in accordance to our cat, Corbin. It's because I said the word cat that you showed up. A time-traveling cat who accidentally ends up in space. Is that you? He's right here beside me. Look at the trouble I have to deal with. Look at this. Huh? Look at this harassment. Okay, so now I've tilted the camera. You look so unimpressed, Corbin. Oh yeah, generally. Right? Okay, so, all right, now I've kind of mucked up this camera setting, and good job, Christopher. Well, you don't need to see me really, so. All right. Corbin, you're chaos, man. All right, so we got this set up. We got our little source image here. Basically, the gist is, you know what? Let's take it even farther. I've got these random colored color erase pencils that I really have not done a ton with. So I'm going to pick a pink, an intermediate purple, and a darker purple out of those. Now the headbutting from them begins. Thank you, Corbin. So I'm going to use this intermediate value for that. And we'll start just really quickly scribbling down. I'm going to erase, don't look, scribbling down elements that'll be in our picture here. So let's get someone's hand. Hopefully I'll zoom in. Hey guys, stop looking at me. Strange the things you have to tell your cat. Here we go. So we'll start here. So I'm just picking small elements out of the source material. I'm not sure that I'm drawing exactly what it is, but that's okay. That's not the point. The point is inspirado for what we're going to use it for. So I'm not being overly defining on everything. Please don't headbutt everything. Thank you. Stop headbutting the camera. Sorry, I'm fighting with a cat. Lie down. Corbin, get out of there. He is such a turd. Get out of here. Go. It's all about me today. What a guy. My apologies, folks. There we go. Yeah, thank you. Just lie down. The clip was pointless. So I'm cutting in some shapes of some figures, some form. And the reason that I'm not really putting all of these lines in a solid structural way, you know, clearly defined and what, is because we're going to do this bit of blurring business. But in the interim, we're going to find all kinds of interesting bits of complexity for these characters as we go. So I'm ghosting lines like this double line here. See if that helps us. Looks like I've drawn Jamiroquai. Laz has a Sylvester wild barn cat that he feeds every day. Laz likes it that Sylvester hates people. Laz just likes a smart cat. There you go. Corbin is my sidekick, and he is helping me with whatever I'm working on, and so that means that if he thinks that this is half of his studio as well, and if things are in places that he doesn't want them in, he knocks them off. If he feels like it's time for immediate attention or an affection from something or someone, he'll headbutt it. It's just, you know. Now we've got our new cat. My cat baby passed away this last year. And so, you know, Lori wanted a nice cat that, you know, would spend time with her, since Corbin's pretty much always hanging out with the old man. Okay, I gotta show you this. This is so tragic. He's on the arm of my chair, draped across my desk, does not care what's in his way. Lie down. Right here by the desk. That's what he does. That's what he does. Ridiculous. Anyways, so yeah, so we got another cat, and her name is Lucy. Lori and Lucy, Christopher and Corbin. We are nerds. So I'm just putting in some shapes for a crowd of people moving hither and yon, and we'll start to more clearly define things. I'm just really quickly roughing all of this in, and then we're going to pick and choose with these other mark making tools that we have for what we're going to do with that. You know, like how we're going to put our marks down to suggest movement. And the reason that we're using this very varied purple palette is because of the fact that we're working on a piece of slap and drag that has purple ink on it. So there we go. I've really been enjoying this last week, I guess, at least, watching a lot of printmaking videos and really finding some inspiration in applications of marks that are to be made, like how you can etch a number of scratchy lines into a surface and then apply those scratched lines to, you know, whatever it is that you're working on in and of the moment. It's just like an extra textural element to throw in. This is why I like things like the slap and drag and so forth, is that these extra complications, these extra textural elements are going to enable us to do things that we might not normally do if we were to just draw straightforward with lines. And so there's a great deal of, you know, facility that comes from that, right? There's a great deal of opportunity that comes from that, you know, that we might not normally consider were we to logistically plan it out. So try those things, even if it's something as simple as take a pencil, scribble on paper in different ways, okay? And then throw it over there. Leave all those pages out to dry someplace if you can for a minute. Once they're dry, put them in a stack and don't look at them. Leave them there for a tiny bit. And then when you come back to them later that day, another day, when you get an opportunity and you come back to those, then go at it. Then start working something with those images. Even if it's just to add some more visual complexity to it, like taking a palette knife with some paint and striking it across the center of the image, or something like that. Whatever it might be, Step away, come back to it, or work on finished images that, like this, that you're going to do, that incorporate some of these compositions that you've started. But rather than managing them specific to a purpose, you're just creating opportunities for yourself to develop later. So, okay, so here's all of our random shapes now coming together, and the foreground tends to be very, I'm not shaking that camera too much, and if I am, I apologize. Between Corbin and I moving it, we had it set quite nicely, and now it's a little bit hibbity-jibbity, so I apologize. So this is a person, believe it or not, this randomness. And then we'll have, see, this is where these sort of shapes start to define something else. Was it Buckminster Fuller, I think was his name, where I was reading an article, and it was something to do with shape. He was talking about how we recognize shapes. We shouldn't have to have the same identifiable shapes all the time for us to source from. I mean, it's exciting to try thinking of different applications of shapes and different complexities that makes it. I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact thing. And that to make up new designs. And I like that. I've always liked that kind of idea. How are we supposed to go to a sci-fi future where all the buildings look all crazy and kooky? If the whole tall rectangle shooting up into the sky is our uniform practice for building now, how disappointing and how depressing would it be to graduate from architecture school and then go work on rectangle buildings? Now maybe somebody who's studied architecture would say otherwise. I don't know.
I don't talk to those people.
No, I just don't know anybody that's an architect. But maybe that's the case. Maybe they find a liberty in trying to discover new ways to put together combinations of environments in order to, within that structure, within the rigidity of that, to make them the most beneficial for people to work within, to occupy. Maybe they think so. I tend to find that office buildings are blah, and I've never really enjoyed being in one, working. So I can't say, but there's probably some interesting, I would think there would have to be, but there's some interesting solutions that they're trying to come up with. And who knows, maybe the market or those up above or the money, because at the end of the day, we're all victims to those with the money. Maybe their solution or their inference is what is paramount. So, okay, so I've scribbled over a little bit on these outside lines that was previously on this page. I've done these really rough images based on this small thumbnail. Now, when you hold the thumbnail up close, it doesn't get much better, folks. But that's the point. We're trying to draw the hustle and the bustle. One of those symbolic bits of language that you'll see in motion pictures is when, the society of mankind had been going at an alarming pace, and it's just people running by in these high-speed, fast-motion things. That's fun. That's a lot of fun. But you've got to try stuff. And how do we do these blends? How do we do these smears? I don't know. We're going to try to figure something out. I was trying to assess this the other day. See, there's something. We got a little bit of a blur. Maybe I'll go to the water bank and we'll try it that way. We're going to try some different stuff anyways and see what that gives us. But some of it is going to be solid, and other parts of it is going to be... What are you doing? Stop knocking everything off. Sorry. He and I aren't getting along very well today. We're an old arguing couple. So, he's back to headbutting my shoulder. He's saying, I'm sorry. So sorry. Stop licking my... Oh my gosh. I'm gonna... Nope. Not back to the headbutting. Get out of here. Turn around, lie down. I love you. Bye bye bye. So, here's some marks we're putting down. Let's switch these values up for this next guy who's coming through with some jeans on. So I'm trying these pens out. We'll see how far this goes before I start implementing something else. I've done this with pencil crayons. Pencil crayons are pretty straightforward. But pens, how do we make this work? We'll see. We'll figure it out. Okay, so now you've got the shoulder of this guy, the legs of this guy. Here is the hat for our first guy coming into place. It's Wednesday. I'm here as early as I am because our friend Devin Rex for Art, Yolanda, streams on Wednesday afternoons generally. I think she still does. And so we're going to go try to see that today. Is that doing it? I'm getting a little bit of a blur. Get down. Get down. Not helping. Same here. Yeah, so we're getting a little bit of this blur happening, this little drag going on. And we'll accentuate that a little bit by putting some color through it, right? Giving it a little bit more form as we go along. This was why I thought, hey, these pencils might come in handy dandy. We've got 3 different colors of, well, that one's better, of the pencils as well. So, and then we're going to come in with some white in addition to all that jazz. So this is to draw the first panel of our suggestion today from, now you're turning pages over here, a time-traveling cat who accidentally ends up in space. And so our first panel is to introduce the idea of time. And we're going to utilize that by having people running hither and yon. And then our next panel will be to introduce our cat. So, if people have a suggestion for the cat, type of cat, let me know. We'll incorporate that in next. So, I'm using this as our basic value for some of the skin tones. Okay, and we're gonna, not just have one color system of skin. We're gonna have the wonderful diversity of humanity in here, and we'll see what. But it's just sort of helping to tie together some of these elements, these visual languages of here's people moving about. So there we are. We're getting started now. I hope people had fun yesterday when I was doing the collage page, because I know it's a little different from what I normally do. And I'm sure somebody's like, what is he doing? Hey, what's that guy doing? But you got to try different stuff, folks. It keeps it interesting. Corbin has no idea what I am doing right now. All he knows is that I'm not spending enough attention on him. So here's, I think I had an arm shape in here like so. Yeah, I'll put in some, I got a white China pen, China marker here that will use some of this as well. And maybe that'll start to help to clarify some of the shapes as well. But we can also use this as a texturous blur. I don't know, we'll see. We're trying to put something together. We're trying to figure it out as we go. But you got to experiment, you got to try. I don't know if there's a running background soundtrack in the microphone or not, but it's just, I got this purring engine beside me here. It just thinks that what we're doing right now is grand. Notice I say we, because he thinks he's in there. He's in like Flynn. Let's use this one. So it's a weird color language that we've got in play right now. But I think that the more that we clarify things within the image, maybe it'll start to make a little bit more sense as its own, once we start getting further along in this composition. Linda says, I'm glad you collage sometimes. Well, I'll do more of it if people enjoy that. Corbin. So the silly thing is that we had hangout time before I started working on stuff. We had hangout time purposely so that he'd leave me be. But apparently it wasn't enough. Because this is me trying to draw, and, well, he stopped. Stopped just as I was going to tell on him. Get off. Headbutting again. Come on, down. He's got his own little spots to sit in here, and he's still harassing me. Okay. So I'm just putting in some marks to add to some of these elements here, and then we'll start really pushing this. Hopefully you're starting to see the differentiation between people now. There's so many fun and interesting ways for us to make marks in order to tell stories. There are so many possibilities. There are so many potentials that why limit ourselves? Stop licking my hand. This is the silliest. You know what? This is a perfect stream for people to come into for the first time. Why does the guy keep saying things like "stop licking my hand"? Because they have no idea that I'm contending with this. Now he's headbutting again. Come on, down. Moving him again. Just lie down. Your big butt. All right. See, that'll buy us 30 seconds. So symbolism is interesting in storytelling. And what I mean by that is, how do we try to exposit time in a story right off the hop? What's a way that we can use some kind of symbolic imagery to work in correlation with the language of our story, the text? What is some sort of symbolic representation of time that we can put forward? Because I think that if we can do it in such a way that people understand what we're referring to, it's successful. If it's something that people aren't going to quite immediately understand, it's not successful. All right, I'm going to put some background in to these people here. And what I'm going to do is, in this little thumbnail, there's a bunch of trees in the background. And I think that having context to a scene, especially an abstracted scene like this of people moving about, having context lets the reader more readily understand What is going on? So we're going to apply some of that. But I'm coming in with this pink value to do it so that it's a little bit diffused. It's not overwhelming. It's going to blend into the overall composition. It's not going to overwhelm us with information that takes us out of the foreground. This whole point, people rushing back and forth. So, we're trying stuff. But in there will fit some actual lines. Corbin, stop knocking things off. I don't do this often, but he's about 2 seconds to get sent out of the studio. There we go. So, but what this also gives us is some sort of relationship with space around them. So if these people are all running to and fro, and there's a set, stable background in behind them, relatively, right? Not overly important, but at the same time, it gives us a sense of these guys in an area. And especially if we can do it in like a city, city is sort of synonymous with lots of movement around. That's all I'm thinking behind this. I don't know if it makes sense to other people, but that's where my head goes. So there's some environment in behind. Now I'm ignoring these black lines that are here that were pre-existing on the page, as well as the purple, because while this could be seen as a real, something that would really detract from doing this, utilizing this piece of paper for this page, I don't think of it in that regard. This is actually the edge of the panel in my head. And I'm incorporating these black lines in, and so it's just as easy to, just looking for any white mark making tool, it's just as easy to, yeah, you were the wrong one, take these things out, to use some white and focus instead of the black lines, but to focus instead on the composition, so that these lines start working in and out of the composition, just making an interesting thing, an interesting little additional complexity. Just as I'm going to come through here and put some hits of value in order to make a little more sense of some of these shapes. No, I didn't do it opaque enough. Maybe I was too hard with it. So like the jacket. And it's all about experimenting, right? So I'm feeling a lot better about this person in the foreground who's blending this way. It's a guy holding onto his hat as he goes by. And hopefully the reader is going to recognize that a little more clearly now, because we've got a couple like more interesting marks together. We've taken our rough pencil thing. I started going through and putting in some additional marks and shapes, and we'll see where we can go with this. We'll see how far we can take these things and start adding in darker values, starting adding in the lighter values like the white. Bye, bud. Okay, whew. He's going to do his thing. Sorry about that, folks. Man does stream. Man wrestles with cat during stream. Maybe I should just have an entire stream of me just wrestling with Corbin on the floor. All the kids would love it. So yeah, so we're going to try and keep on keeping on with some of these marks. This is, okay, so this is a rather light one. But it's a jelly pen, so it's not as, I find that ballpoint pens dry really fast, whereas the ink in a jelly pen is more workable. And then we can put in use some of these pencils to fill in some of these other volumes of space in and around. So here we've got a young man with a t-shirt on, right here in this corner. And he's got some hair going there. What color was that I just used? Is it this one? No. So I like the fact that you can work interchangeably with pencils and pens, that you can work over top of the pencil with the pen. It's nice. It's liberating. It's liberating that it allows us to explore things a little more. So let's get some really dark shapes in our background, just to push a little more dimension into that. But again, we don't want it to overwhelm what we're doing in the foreground. So where's that middle guy? There he is. So now we're going to come in with these trees, these two trees in the background here. An ideal thing, I think, to use like this would probably, but a pretty straightforward thing, would be watercolor pencils, where as you draw something and they're wet and you can do whatever you like with it, right? Yeah, Linda likes the collage stuff. We'll have to try more of that. Thank you, Linda, our moderator with the mostest. So just giving a little more shape and complexity to the background. You know, and how those shapes come together and move around in our background and imply, you know, context, imply some volume. So it's not just blurry people. It's not a world of just blurry people. It's a world that has a little more stability than the foreground image. And helps us to understand a little more of the intended narrative with. So these are the ideas that run through my head while I'm doing whatever. Some of it might sound like nonsense, but you know, I'm not trying to sell you a car. I'm trying to figure out different ways of seeing things and different ways of interpreting things and making marks. So we've got some characters that are coming together here and some background that's coming together here. I'm going to, a little bit of gray on the end of that. Gray or, yeah, okay, I think I got it off. So we're going to try to poke some white areas and then drag them through, but to start to define more elements. So hopefully people are going to figure out, hey, that's a dude's face. that's a dude. Dude. I don't know. Maybe that helps. Maybe. Does that make it more clear for anyone? That's a good streak from that one. Oh yeah, there goes the streak. Look at that, look at that. Can you hear the little metal ball inside the pen rocking around as I up and down, up and down. I haven't decided really on a color for this young man's t-shirt that he's wearing. Maybe we'll change it in a moment, but for the time being, we're going to use our white to apply some structure to his face. So yeah, maybe this is starting to identifiably look more like people. Maybe. I think it's a bit of farting around, but you know, we can get something out of it. I can also try. Let's see what this does. I've got some Poscas kicking around here, or some different paint markers. So maybe putting some little belts of value that we can smudge along in here. Oh, see, I think that actually works fairly well. But we're trying to stay within the same palette structure here, so yeah, I think that's identifiable a little bit more identifiable as humans. Let's try. Okay, we got a fun. That's a red. There's another pink over here. So here's a fun bit of purple that we'll put into his pantalon. There we go. So that's just starting to give a little more depth, a little more shape to things. There's a thing in the 1980s and 90s in advertising where everybody was using oil paint and doing these sort of speed line movement, and you know, these implied movements, and they would use them on packaging for like video games or race car business or things like that. I always liked those as a kid. I never quite understood how they did them, but I liked them. What other Posca values have I got over here? Any more purples? Oh, there's a crazy pink. Mitsubishi Pencil Company Limited. Making sure there's no smuts on that. Okay, now we got it. Now we got something happening. So I'm just taking these different values and going through our image and adding a little more clarity to some of the shapes, the differences between the people, and at the same time trying to again suggest that movement rushing around. This guy is kaput. I've just been discovering that letting my grandkids use certain pens is flat out killed those pens. I'm a murderer. So I'm using positive and negative mark making to define the shapes of a face, right? Outside lines instead of working the inside definition, and trying to have some fun with that. Incorporate some of those values up into the area up above. So hopefully this is tying some things together for people. You gotta keep it interesting, folks. A little bit in these trees. Some of this kid's hair. He's not a kid. Probably. Oh, that worked well, that one. That's a good blur. So let's look it up close, see if it's doing its thing. Linda says, thanks everyone for the thumbs up. Oh, that's super cool, Linda. Thank you. So let's keep going on that. Oh, that's a tan color. Yeah, we got some people coming together now. As we go through the image, we're getting some fun colors, some fun things happening. And then we'll come back through with the China marker in here as well, and see what that does for us. Let's do a couple more pokes of white in here. This is a Craftsmart pen that I'm using at the moment. I think it's made by the same company that makes Posca. It's a brand line and it's not as good. And it's also an oil base, this one. Which doesn't set me off. Oil paste things can really set me off sometimes. There we go. See what the acrylic guy does for us. Is he a little more consistent, solid? I think he is. I think he's a better white. I think it would have been the oil-based one, but no. No. It's a much more crisp white in the white acrylic one. There we go. Now we've got coming through. Corbin's back. So you get the gist of it. So, I mean, I'm going to go through and finish off these panels, this area here. But let's get cracking. I put forward a question a little bit ago about cats. Our space cat is the next panel. So we can do this a couple ways. We can try to break down the whole of the page in rough notes on the back of this piece of paper. It's one way we can look at things. Or we can start trying to figure it out on the page. If anybody has a preference, let me know. Hello, welcome back. Yeah? What else? I think he was telling me what he was up to. Did you know that I just conquered a foreign nation? I don't know. I do my best to understand. But there's a communication breakdown with me and this kid. So now we've got a better feeling on the relationship of characters, the relationship through space, I think. Goodness, Corbin. So, yeah, I'm just going to continue this complexity across here. I've got the thumbnails. I'm just typing cat. How do you spell that? K-A-T-T. I know how to spell it. That's how I spell cat, bud. All right, we've got, we're going to do an image. And I'm going to stick with this. So I've got a thumbnail here. This random picture of, a little picture of a cat here. So we're going to use that. And, but what we'll do is we'll put our cat in a lab coat. Why? Because it's Wednesday. Where are your panels going to be? So there's the thing. So here's our first one, right? And panels don't always have to be closed. But there's the rough extension of our first panel. Is here, 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 right? And now here's the extension of our second panel. And I have an idea for our third. We're at an hour. Let's get this cat in quick. And not you. Do you want me to climb on your desk, then? Did you know that I'm a cat? Don't headbutt. No headbutting. Just... Oh, Corbin. I can't move stuff. You're in the road. Forget it. Tough. You can't sit there. Back to look at my hand. So there's that shape. Make the eyes a little bit bigger. And so we'll put our cat into our panel here for number 2. Stop. Sorry. It's fun having a cat in the studio. It really is. When they're being helpful. Keeping you company. Right? Backing up your beliefs. That's crazy, isn't it, Corbin? Meow. That means, yes, it is. So here's our panel 2. Right? This is where we've got our scientist cat. And, I mean, we can put glasses on him. That might be interesting. The suggestion is time-traveling cat who accidentally ends up in space. Now, I thought what might be fun is to do a third panel here along this top row where we have a location that our time-traveling or a time and space traveling cat might like to go, and that would be their objective. But that isn't where they go. So here's a silly thing that people might not be considering. Time travel. Okay, we live on. It's not just about time. It's about time and space, because when we try to calculate the differences of movement through time, what we have to relate to is the movement in space. Is Chris aware of these things? Because Chris is a comic book reading nerd. So, and I'll show you how I mean. Here we are on Earth, right? We are right here. Now, 24 hours turns us back to right here. Yes? No. Because we are also traveling around this gaseous ball. So in 24 hours, we are not just spinning right here and arriving at the same spot. We have to figure out the relocation in space. Right? How many cycles that we move around this guy. And so, you know, if it takes 365 days, let me think about how this is. So we've got the Earth is rotating this way. We are rotating around the sun, right? We have to calculate both of those factors as we travel through time. So if we're going to switch to tomorrow, then we have to figure out where we've rotated around here. 365 rotation. Each rotation is a day. 365 rotations is a year. And then, so at the same time, we've got the moon orbiting us around here. It's complicated. So time travel becomes more interesting in that regard, because that's how a cat can, accidentally end up in space, is because if the cat does the math wrong and he hasn't found another location of the Earth with the moon rotating around the sun in the right amount of time calculated, then that cat's going to end up here instead of here. Munich, Germany, 1944, right? So that's how a cat can end up in the wrong place. So while it's a fun and cute suggestion, it actually allows for an exploration in the complexity of time travel and the fact that things do move around in time and space. Corbin told me all about this earlier, right? We got this suggestion an hour ago, my head went and immediately started overthinking. So we're putting a nice little scientific lab coat on our cat here. Our rough assessment of where the bottom of the panel is here, so we can fit in our image of cat in lab coat. And then over here we'll put pocket protector, right, Corbin? Corbin wears one. He's a nerd. Pen. How he uses a ballpoint pen, we're not getting into that right now. And then we'll have a ID card hanging off of his neck as well. And so our little ID card has, clearance and whatnot. Here's a photo of him. And we'll put some type on there. Section 3, clearance, right? Here we are. So here's our cat. And then, so if we figure out that this is that panel, and that we figure out then that this is this panel. So here's our first 3 panels on the page. So our cat will be number 2, cat scientist. And then there's his shoulders, which is fun. And then our third panel here will be a shot of Earth. Okay, but we'll have the tiny little moon, and then we'll have another shot of Earth, like a couple of, Corbin, look at, can you see, he's draped over my arm. He's just decided, I'm going to hang over your arm while you're working. This is what I'm dealing with here, folks. So we'll put the moon in a different position, and then we'll have another, your tail's knocking everything off. Get off. Okay, he's here at this point. Okay, this is what, yeah, we're wrapping up soon. Absurd, bud. So we'll have the start of another Earth down in the bottom corner of this panel here. And then we'll put another 4th one, equally spaced, up above. Okay, and so the point of this panel is that time, our scientist realizes, not just about time, it's about space. Right? So there's our first 3 nerdy panels on the top. So I'll pull the camera out like so. So here we are with panel 1. Here we are with panel 2. Here we are with panel 3. And they're all running along the same height. Now, when I scan this, what I can do is I can actually focus this much of the panel and cut this out, frame this out, and then transfer it onto the format page that I have for this is the uniform size of the comic pages that I do. Even though this is a uniform size that I'm working at here, I also sometimes work at this scale. And to be able to take these two different scales and have them redirected to be the same formatted size of a page when I'm finished, I'll scan them. I have to scan this in a couple of different goes. And in order for this to be tied in as one page, the same size, and this to be tied in as one page, the same size. So that's how I do that. But when I do so, I can cut the line right here so that I can put a gutter in between these two panels if I would like in that finished page. So that's why I say each time it's done in this format and finished digitally, because digitally I'll be able to have a nice clean gutter down the center. I put the text over top of it in digital, but we can experiment and play as much as we like and have as much fun as we like visually and artistically, creatively here on our pages. So that's some of that process there. That's what I'm referring to. So when you see things and they kind of look like one's on top of another and they bleed through one into the next, well, we can clean that up. Now we can also, when we start drawing the second panel, use some of these overlaps, these visual overlaps into our second panel, or we can clean them up within the confines of said second panel. So never worry too much about exactness. Never worry too much about, is it beautifully illustrated as a page so that I can hang it up and say, look at it exactly like it is in the book. Well, there are instances where we'll draw a page that is going to be represented exactly the same in the book, and there are instances where we don't have to adhere to that. And so there's no hard, fast rule. It has to be one or the other. So we've got panel 1, time. Panel 2, scientist. Panel 3, space. And then the bottom section of this page is where we get to take that and move it in whatever direction that we want. Do we want it to be 2 equally sized panels? Do we want it to be one long panel? What is the punchline of our story? And when I say punchline, it doesn't mean it have to be a joke. It doesn't. But what is the summation of our story? We've put these different elements into place together, and now we're going to tie it up. And the suggestion of a time traveling cat, space. So now we can we can have an image here of said cat with his ears and, sitting there trying to lick his arm while in a spaceship, with all kinds of gears and business around him. And, we can insert a tiny panel here of, let's say, Munich. We'll do Munich. Okay, so I'll make a note. There's Munich, cat in spaceship, and our last bit is we can have our cat repeatedly end up in space or Egypt or whatever else. We can do a whole bunch of little thin, quick panels of the wrong calculations that, all right, I'll move it. He's trying to push off an entire tray of things because I put them in his spot where he sits. Hi, chatters. How's life? Hi, Susanna. I hope you like today's page from your suggestion. So that's what we'll do, is that we'll utilize this space. We'll have our cat in a spaceship, and we can have fun with drawing a number of different places where it's not working out correctly. Now, here's the other best part of something like this, is that if I feel like this, and this are great for one page. So here's the top panel, here's the 2 side panels, and I can control the size and width, etc. of those. But this becomes a 2-page story because I want to give more value or more space and time, literally on a page, to space this out to a 2-page story, we can do that. And the reason that we can do that is because it's up to us. It's our decision for our 1-page thing to be bleeded out to 2 pages or 3 pages or whatever it is today. The idea of the 1-page story extravaganza primarily is to try to at least get out a story of a page of story from a suggestion. It doesn't mean I can't do more with that. Sometimes I feel inspired to do so. If you feel that you can, in the same sort of allotment of time, push out something a little more, structure something a little larger in the time frame without it becoming a large built-up project for yourself that's going to inundate you with burden, because you only have so much time to work on things in your schedule, don't do it. But allow yourself to try to do one page of story. And it doesn't always mean, a story doesn't always mean a beginning. In the beginning, the universe was created, and at the end, the universe died this way. You don't have to do that much of a story. You can literally have, there was a cat who wanted to create a time machine that traveled through, but he accidentally ended up in space one day. And why was that? I mean, you can just posit the question of that. You don't have to get into the explanation of Earth moves around the sun, and at the same time, Earth itself spins on that rotating axis that it goes around the sun at. So you have to calculate for all those different factors. It's a lot of chalk, And if you lose your calculator, how are you gonna figure all that out? You can do it something just quick and terse, and there you go. I make a hypothesis without it having examples of where it goes. So I may change it. That's the fun part of this, is that as I'm finishing off panels, well, where do I go with the story? Well, what economy of time do I have to tell that story in? Do I want to do it as a couple pages? Do I want to do it as one? Do I want to do it as a 6-panel thing? Do I want to do it as 2? Allow yourself that. So if you're going to do some storytelling, unless you have a rigid structure in the project that you have in front of you, allow yourself that. Allow yourself to play. Allow yourself to put together something that works for you in your time and skill level. So, but above all, when doing anything else like this, and using a surface like a slap and drag surface, or confining yourself within the boundaries of having to use pink, purple pens and mark making tools, and I got a little bit of red in here that's sort of fallen into the mix, but I've yet to use, and white. We're using some white in here as well. Give yourself limitations. Give yourself. So here's these tools that I've just referred to. I'll pull the camera up so that you can see some of those in the frame. So here's some of those tools, right? Here's some more over here on this side, and it's all just pink, purple, white bits of business. So those limitations help you from getting over involved, and how many things am I going to do this in, and what level of finish are we going to set some things out for you to use, however randomly assorted they are throughout whatever materials that you have, and then try something out. Yesterday we did, where did I put it? Yesterday we did a collaged image with some paints from tubes and some pictures from markers, and there's some brown ballpoint in here as well, brown and orange ballpoint. So, and we tried to replicate some panels from the one that we've got from a magazine image, to continue a narrative with this repetitive character through here, despite the fact that we only had one image of them. And then there's little things that we were playing around with. So when I'm drawing this, I'm utilizing this axis of the enlarging head of here, and flipping that as well with the mom character and the repeated red through there, and then this repeated black value through here that also includes the dad. These are just things that you do After a while, it becomes a subconscious action. But the tools are just, they're literally just that. They're just literally just tools to use. And enjoy that. Play with those. Have fun with that, right? Don't, oh, I've only got some paint and some pens. Great. We've only got markers. Great. You don't even have to use all of those markers. You can just, today's drawing is in green. Maybe I'll just draw with greens and reds for this picture. And maybe I'll use them in a really opaque way where my green, if I'm going to do a face, the green marks that I put down here in these places, okay, in this way, in a very graphic kind of design where I'm using these established shapes, and here is my face, and I'm going to do the rest of the area around said face in this panel. So if this is the green areas that I've got down here, and I'm going to put some fun little marks here to showcase this is the extremis of the face, this is the outside, and this is their hair. And so I'll put some little marks up above, and I can have one line coming down here, one line over the ear, and some hair. So all of this shape language, opaque shape language, that's your way you're drawing today, just like so. And then the rest of this, so this is your green, and this is your red. You're making an entire composition only using two things, two colors. As just as valid as having all of those colors within whatever the box of markers that you have has in it. But if you can just stick to, and if you want to get even more cheeky, when you use the colors together, right? Separate whatever the color of the surface of the paper is, use that differentiation of space, don't fill those in. So now you've added in a third color element just using the surface of the paper, right? And you've allowed yourself, because I'm worried about blending the two colors together. Well, now you've answered that, but you've also added an interesting design element to your image. And so the thing that you're drawing now has this additional silly bit of complexity to it. A third color without a color. So there's so many things you can do with limited amounts of materials. Collaging is one sort of way. You can take a piece of tissue paper, lay it over top of your magazine image because you've declared you can't draw. That's fine. Take a piece of tissue paper or a light piece of vellum paper, put your image up on the window, put a piece of white paper over top of it, trace it out in this rough kind of static way where you've got these really set shapes of value. Look at the blacks and the whites, the highest contrast elements within the image that you want to replicate, and then trace it as black shapes and white shapes of space. And then put that down on the table or whatever surface you're working on. But instead of black and white, as you rough these shapes out with your tracing tool, you do green and red. Do orange and blue. Do play with different color combinations and start to understand how those color combinations work together. Do you have to be able to draw, in whatever level of sophistication? No. And are you copying if you're tracing the source image in using the light of the window coming through the pane and because you don't have another vehicle for you to trace from in a really clear way? No, you're not copying, you're not cheating, you're not doing it. No, because whatever those combinations of things that you use, the tools, and tools include the surface that you work on, and the approach, those combinations of things make it yours. So you can do things that other people would go, why did I not think of that? You could do this simple application, and then you could take a stencil, and you can take an offset color, okay? Like a lighter green or a lighter red, all right? And you can start to apply, and I'm going to use a different purple to represent this, okay? And you can start to apply, using your little stencil of circles, you can start to apply these random bits of circles into this environment here that may or may not make any sense to anyone other than you at first. But if you take that second value for your light color and you start applying it outside the darker area, then it becomes interesting and weird and different and entirely an approach that you take that other people might not understand. And you do something new and different that's you. So there's no such thing as limiting yourself, and there's no such thing as looking at your limitations as the be-all end-all of whatever, and that's going to stop you from trying out different things and experimenting and playing. So Susanna says, someone showed me a box full of Poscas. I thought a dream came true until I saw the price. I didn't die from a stroke of luck. I'm still in shock. But next month is my birthday. Who knows? Last year I bought a Baron to gift myself. It never arrived. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry that happened. This year I'll be smarter. I have a Baron in my studio for when I'm doing jelly plating and printing. I'll show you my Baron. It's right here. It's an old jar of acrylic that has largely dried up, but it has a nice rounded bottom on it, and that's what I use. So see if you have a Baron in your studio now, even though the lovely one that you tried to get in didn't come, because that's mine. You know, you can also use, hey, look at this. I got this Tupperware this glass container in my kitchen for holding foodstuffs in. Oh, it's also got a lovely rounded edge, and it has a nice little bit of weight to it, and I can use that as a Baron as well. Doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes the tools and the value of them and the sophistication of them isn't important. It's what it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. It ain't what you got, it's the way that you use it. So yeah, somebody should write a song about that. Have fun with things, try things. And Christopher, do you bite your fingernails? Yes, I do. Not anymore. I have stopped. And so now I'm growing fingernails. And I can't tell you how many times I've scratched myself in the last week or so. But I have bit my fingernails for a long time, and my wife said, stop it. Also, it would be nice to have fingernails when our youngest gets married and I'm meeting people and shaking their hands. It's something I've never really been overly conscious of, but now I have grown fingernails. I don't know if anybody has noticed up until now, but I have normal human being fingers now. Doug says, I'm always impressed by how much you know. Well, that's very nice, Doug. I feel the same way about you. It's not a case of it's just we can become exposed to things, and it's whatever retention that we have for whatever the things are that probably meet our interest, and we hold on to those things. But I appreciate that, Doug. That's very nice. I use a glass bottle cap, Susanna says. Excellent. Perfect. Works, it works, right? Trying different things, experimenting with different things, and doing it on whatever amount that we need to, that we retain that thing, adds to the complexity of how we approach whatever we do. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to get the jelly plating stuff out that I haven't used in 4 months. I don't remember how to do jelly plating. There's so many things that we can just access, and somebody goes, basics of jelly plating, in a quick video, and we go, oh yeah, right. And then we implement that basic approach into, do I have all those things? I've got those things. I had them from the last time I did it 4 months ago. I just forgot how they work together. Away we go. And how we go about doing it is going to be different than whatever we just watched in the video. I promise you, you're going to go, and shortcuts and whatever things are going to come back to you. It's interesting how that comes together. Hi, Doug. Welcome aboard, by the way. Doug says, yeah, but you can articulate it. See, I don't know how well I articulate things. Susanna wants to be fancy. Susanna, the way that you do something is going to be fancy in the way that you do it. That's not going to be the same in the way that somebody else does it. A quick piece of dialogue on a piece of paper to one person has a different level of sophistication and fanciness to it in another person's eyes. And now another person does something and they look at it and they say, it's rudimentary, it's basic, I don't feel it's successful. And the person beside them looks at that and sees a different level of sophistication and fanciness to it that the person who made it doesn't see. It goes both ways. Doug Rogers, who's joined our chat today, folks, if you have an opportunity to look up Doug's work, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, for heaven's sakes, is it ldn.org? Is that right? Or is it, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug. But please look here, because this is a person who uses a simplicity in some of their marks. They'll use an outline of shape that doesn't fit the face when the application of color comes in, and yet at the same time it does, and it works with those lines. Oh, Susanna got a refund for her Braille mailing situation. I'm glad to hear that, Susanna. That's important. It's interesting you asked me about my fingernails now. Liz, did you look at old videos? Because I'm sure you could see how brutal they were before. Yeah, I'm glad you got your refund. But, Doug, did I get this right? ldn.org? .org? I have to look it up now. Lund.life. It's Lund.life. Good heavens, Christopher. See, it takes a minute for things to come together. Anyways, look up how Doug looks at line making and line work. We have a thing here in London, because Doug also lives in London. I have one here. Okay, this is our Comic Jam. This is a Comic Jam book, and Doug actually is the one that assembles these. Okay, sorry for the creaking. But one of the things that we do is one person does a panel, the next person adds the said panel, the next person, so on and so forth until we have an entire narrative. Now, this is Doug's. Doug, I know for a fact, is the person who did this first panel. Right? And yet, there's a simplicity in some of the marks that he makes. See, some of these chisel tip marks that he puts down, he doesn't fill in the entire volume on this character with the one value that he's used. Okay? And yet, you understand the shape. There's the pocket. There's the arm and the shoulder, hand in pocket, jacket. Right? A little bit of shadow on the back of this leg with a foot. Second foot beside it. Simple marks that he has found out a sophisticated way that he puts together a combination of marks that is not the same as whatever weirdo probably did this panel. I think I did this one. I tried to turn it into a musical. But the way that this person tries to emulate a similarity of volume applied by mark making. We're getting fancy on the words now, folks. Tries to emulate the first person's application, because that's what I do. When I do the jam, I try to follow what the first person before me. So in cases where it's Doug, it gets interesting. So I use some of these shadow marks and use how light works on a form. So big belly, shadow underneath. Chest area, shadow underneath, right? Arm, implied shadow there. Arm under shadow here. Or I'm sorry, shadow under arm here. And I'm trying to find a similarity of mark making and how I understand how things work when I'm drawing, but I try to relate it to how the person before me does it. So take a look at what Doug does, and you see how he makes those interesting marks. You know, we're going to see things in different ways of how we do something from how the person beside us does. And this person comes along and they illustrate in their style. And it's so cold. Oh, my leg. And there's, I believe their leg's broken here. And the next person carries on, and they've carried on the same pattern of me trying to turn it into a musical where everybody in the background, you know, I'm from Sears, don't you know, where it's cold, oh so cold, you know. And then the next person goes, so cold, oh my leg, his leg, my leg. That's part of the fun. It doesn't matter what the level of sophistication is in one person's eyes, because the way that the person beside you looks at it is entirely from their own viewpoint. So never worry about that stuff, and allow yourself to play. You know, look at, here's a combination of me scribbling a quick panel for the first one, sweet googly moogly, this is heavy, and what Doug does next, and I'm pretty sure that's Doug there. Somebody take these comics off my hands, and he's changed this boulder weight to a comic weight. And he's trying to figure out what is it that Christopher's doing in his first panel and continuing on that, but he's adding in his own secret sauce of mark making. So there you go. There's this is why I said what I said back to Doug when he said it's interesting the things you know, and I'm like, it's interesting things you know. They made a refund a year later. Sorry, Doug, I haven't found you. Those are websites. Doug, what's your thing on Pinterest? Or Pinterest. Good heavens here. Christopher can't think of words. I'm going to go on Instagram. I can't go on Instagram. Yes, I can. I can use this. I'll use the robot. Excuse me a second. I'm going to find Instagram. And I'm going to pull Doug up here. Okay, Doug on Instagram, everyone, is this. So please go and look. Go check him out and go see the things that he does, because they're fantastic. And he uses different marks in a way that I don't use them and that I find interesting. And that's what it's all about. You know, look up any of the names that you see in the chat today, that you see making comments on videos or on any of the posts that I do. I try to look them up myself and see what other people are doing. It's very exciting to me. I hope that there's something in the ways that different people make different marks that you can look at and go, I like that. That makes some sense to me in my headspace. You know, I'm going to try to apply that, because that's part of the fun, right? And you're always going to see interesting things that stand out to you in a way that you might not have considered in your approach, in your journey so far. But they use dots on things. I like dots. You know, they use little side hash marks in their drawings a lot, in their shading. You know, like this, and I like that kind of thing. I don't want a consistent, solid bit of shadow. I want to imply more shadow around that, but have it break up, but use a geometric form. Whatever it is, you know, people are going to do things that are interested. Doug says that too. Those laughs. You refer to yourself as Christopher, not as Chris either. Our youngest is named Chris, and so I've always been a Christopher, and our youngest is a Chris. You know, and it helps to separate who's who when in the family. If somebody says Chris or you know, somebody outside of the immediate close-knit family groups talks to those of us that are gathered in our little clan, and they say Chris and Christopher. That helps, instead of saying big Chris and little Chris, because that's not fair. Can't help that Dad's a gorilla. So yeah, names are interesting. I don't even sign my last name correctly, because my last name is Runciman, and Susanna, and those your names are on here because of your suggestions. So that's my last name, but nobody knows how to say that, so I find it easier to write it as this. Eliminate the I and accentuate the C. Also, I like the balance. It's like a smile. So, smile with a big tooth. So yeah, check out Samu Press. Look at all the writing on the back of this collage I've done now. All of this is on the back of that. Samu Press. That's where you'll find images by Doug. And a lot of fun stuff there, folks. But never see the way that you work in a sort of way of just the limitation of it. Always look at the way that you work as a type of language that you're developing. And it's going to be more sophisticated, complex over time in some ways, and it's going to be more simplified and an easier approach in other ways. And that develops over time. You know, it's fun. It's fun that way. It's fun, that journey. So, okay, I bled in a few minutes. It's 2:45 now. I started earlier today so that I could go and check out what Devin Rex for Art is going to do today, because generally she does show on Tuesdays. No idea now where I put my phone. See if she's. But she should be streaming today, and if she isn't, watch one of the streams that she's done. Yeah, take a look at what Yolanda's doing on Devin Rex for Art, and she does a lot of really interesting things with collage and printmaking that people might find interesting there. And if you get an opportunity, please go and take a look at what Doug Rogers is doing and posting here on, if he's posting things on YouTube and if he's posting things on Instagram as SAMUPRESS. So, next time, can you do an abstract or grunge? Just a thought, love the collage. Okay, tomorrow is abstract. How's that? Tuesday, Thursday, what day is it? Today's Wednesday. Thursday at 2 p.m. EST, we're going to get abstract. Okay? We're going to simplify, simplify, simplify. So, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. That's what we're going to try tomorrow. Okay, I hope to see you then. But in the meantime, bye for now. Go and look at what some other people are doing. Look at all the names of all the people that are here in the chat and that take part in things. And see what they've been up to. See what Linda's doing. See what Suzanne is doing. See what Liz is doing. And have some fun, folks. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, go make something. Have some fun. Thanks very much for coming and hanging out. Thank you everybody that took part in the chat and that conversation today. Thank you very much for our good friend Linda, the moderator with the mostest. And we'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. Bye for now.